Welcome to Beer and Sunshine with Cultivation. I'm James. This is Michael. Thanks for having us, guys.
Hey, cheers.
Thank you.
I'm really nervous.
Thank you for bringing this beer.
You're welcome.
There you go.
Yes.
I'm not going to risk that against Susie. I will drink this.
All right, so Juice Box, this is the one you won an award for, right?
Yeah, so this is a smoothie style Berliner Weiss.
Oh my God.
We just poured at the J-Dubs Dub Fest. And we won because of this beer. So this one actually, so there's a different fruit combination every time. This one is mango, passion fruit, and pineapple.
This is the juiciest beer I have ever tasted, hands down, bar none. Right?
I could easily blend it up and trick myself into thinking this is my health.
Throw some ice in it?
You could give this to children and in these little cups. They wouldn't even know. Mom, this is
you
great.
don't know how many times we've gotten that exact comment. Like,
I'm
I could give this to my kids and
You
they'd
could
be
give this
out
to
like a
your kids.
light in
No,
like an hour.
no, we don't endorse that.
Yeah, no, for sure. Definitely not.
Oh my God,
But-
it smells so good.
You have Juice Box and you redo it with different fruits every time?
Yeah, so
Okay.
basically the same base beer and then a bunch of different fruits that we use that we source ourselves and we puree ourselves. They're always fresh, real fruit.
That's awesome.
We don't generally like extracts, but this gives us the best flavor we can possibly get.
Super
that's
crazy
incredible.
delicious.
So it's about 4.5% to 5%, depending on the batch. So it's not too high, but it's more than you'd think it would be.
Especially in a Berliner, usually those are typically a little lower.
So
Yeah.
we get into that discussion a
This
lot.
would be
with
the Imperial Berliner.
Trying this, it's easy to see why you guys have won. You said 5 competitions out of 5
That you've entered.
Yeah,
that you've entered.
And you've won for IPA, right?
Yep.
we went for
So
IPA before.
The Tampa Bay Brewing Company, their Summer Homebrew Classic.
IPA has to be like the stiffest competition, right? That
Yeah.
has to be the
It was the
toughest
most-
category.
most-
That was the
entries.
most entries.
That's
Yep.
for sure.
ridiculous. That's just crazy.
We did not bring an IPA this time. I apologize.
That is okay.
That's
I'm
okay,
happy with this. I'm gonna
Apology
I'm
not,
gonna steal that
not
bottle.
accepted. You guys, I believe you said you have plans to get something going, maybe close to the downtown area here in Sarasota.
Yep.
Do you have a timeline at all for when you think that you might be able to, invite people in to drink your beer? And
A pretty rough timeline. We unfortunately are inhibited by the lack of money.
yeah,
So
yeah.
that's
Yeah.
basically what our wall is at the moment.
That's everybody's wall.
Pretty much.
Gotta get you like a Kickstarter or GoFundMe, right?
That would be cool. That would
Good
be
idea.
cool.
That's a great idea. That's
gotta-
appropriate for what you guys are doing. That's appropriate, I think,
Sure.
because those people that invest into your fundraising vehicle, they get to come in and drink beer.
True.
Maybe they get a T-shirt.
We do have
But
those.
So then you
beer
guys
always
are
works.
mostly centered around home brewing right now and entering
Yep.
these competitions. So tell me again, like how you guys got started with home brewing and brewing these awesome beers. I'm gonna drink this forever.
Until it's gone.
I started in 2014 when I was in college because I couldn't buy beer, but I appreciated beer, and I like to cook. So I figured that I could do it myself. My wife bought me a Mr. Beer kit, which I'm pretty sure everyone kind of starts out with something like that. And I dive deep into hobbies. So pretty quickly after brewing my first Mr. Beer on the stovetop, it was still fermenting. I was on forums researching, trying to learn more and more about beer. Before that Mr. Beer kit was done fermenting, I had brewed a cider and a wheat beer, American wheat beer, that through research and through homebrew talk at the time, learned that a Saison yeast in a closet was probably going to be my best bet, since Florida, I can't keep my house at 60 because I'm not made of money. So
Ooh, nobody can, isn't that the truth?
so I ended up using a Saison yeast. They both turned out okay. The Mr. Beer kit was awful, and the second Mr. Beer kit was also awful.
Sorry, Mr. Beer.
I'm not sure if that was my fault or their fault.
Mr. Beers.
I don't know. If I'm
Could've been
drinking
Mr.
these, I'm
Beers.
gonna say it's them.
Yeah.
So
Sorry.
dove deep and it's been downhill ever since.
And for me, I started bartending at Calusa, and then first batch of beer with Ed on the pilot system, and then that's where I met this guy. Actually, he came in and brought a homebrew.
Did you ever work at any other breweries?
No, just Calusa, Arcane, and now Corporate Ladder.
Just those.
Just the 3 so far, and then hopefully the next one's Cultivation. That's ideal.
I don't know if you're gonna make the cut.
True. Good point.
Tough conversation.
You know?
There are times when I would fire myself, but
I can relate to that. 100%. That's amazing.
but yeah, I met this guy, unfortunately, and then I actually helped him brew a stout for his wedding. It was a big Russian Imperial stout.
Super cool.
And then we started brewing some beers after that, and it kind of just spiraled out of control. Like I feel like we didn't have this like idea of like, hey, we're gonna start this brewery, until it was just like we made a couple of great beers, and it was like we should enter some comps, and then we entered some comps, and once those comps, I was like, hey, we should probably start a brewery.
People probably want to buy this.
And then we started
Like-
talking, a lot more seriously about that, what vision looks like, and
Came up with names, some branding.
some branding. I did these graphics on these bottles.
You could do something
awesome.
totally different than anybody's probably ever done. Move your families into a warehouse that is
Okay.
both residential and commercially zoned, and then do it.
Nice.
Live there and have a brewery. Boom.
Perfect.
Two
I
birds,
mean,
one stone.
consolidate some money. Well,
That's
for
true.
sure.
That's true.
Cultivation.
You'd be cool. You could be cool roommates. That'd be awesome. Are you married? Married guy? Single guy?
I'm not married. I do have a girlfriend though.
Yeah.
I'm married.
So your girlfriend, his wife, they could become best friends. You guys would be best friends.
Perfect.
You
I
just,
mean,
that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
I don't know if we could become best friends.
Like, working together.
Yeah.
Like,
Living
ooh.
together.
Right. That's a little much.
This is something I'm kind of curious about. Do you guys have very similar styles of beer and the same taste in beer, or do you have very different styles?
Yes, so that's exactly that's one of the biggest reasons I think why this works is
Sure.
we are both very similar in our palates and the way we view beer and the beers we want to make and the vision of what our business would look like and our business ideas. So yeah, it's really a perfect marriage in that regard, and we're different at certain things. He's way better at most technical things than I am, and I'm a little bit more artsy fartsy. So it works out, kind of a yin and yang
That's
kind of
awesome.
thing. So yeah, definitely happy to have him. I don't know if I'd be able to do it by myself.
I think that message is very clear by your taco socks.
These are pretty sweet.
Taco socks. He has taco socks.
Taco Tuesday.
I have puppies.
It is.
I have puppies in my socks. Everybody, they're puppies.
Guys,
They're puppies.
like I didn't get the sock memo.
I
What
didn't
the
either.
hell?
I'm wearing
No, it's all right.
normal.
It's okay.
I didn't get the
Nothing.
socks either, so.
Yeah.
Okay.
Next time, I'll bring
Clearly,
socks
this
for
is
everybody.
an exclusive club that we're not allowed into, but that's fine. I'll let it slide since your beer's good.
Cultivation Juice Box socks coming soon.
Yeah.
Juice box socks.
Oh,
that's
think about
socks.
There you
No
go.
kidding.
Just thought
Oh my
of that.
gosh. If you sold socks that had the names of the beers at the brewery sold at the brewery, they would sell the hell out of those.
These are pretty sweet labels, actually. I've seen some. No, I'm not gonna name any names, but I've seen some pretty terrible label designs.
So yeah, I have a bachelor's of science in film, and so I kind of found out I didn't like the film industry very quickly, and then started working more into doing photos, and then photos turned into Photoshop, and
Yeah.
then Photoshop just kind of devolved into all things design.
Creative and design element in, and what do you bring to the table in cultivation?
Everything else.
So I like to think of myself more of the engineering science background, process control to a certain extent.
Yeah.
When I don't know how you feel about cursing on this, but
Oh, go for it,
when,
100%.
How
when
dare you,
shit hits
sir.
the fan and somebody's getting sprayed with a hot water hose, it's generally not me that's getting hit with the hot water hose. I'm generally the one that figures out how to stop the hot
You
water
think the
hose.
pro brewer would not spray himself in the face?
That hasn't happened in a while,
Wow.
but when it does, those quick process on the fly, daily things sometimes get defaulted to me.
Yeah.
He takes great pictures and does our labor work.
Love it.
But
Thanks.
It takes a lot of science and a knowledge of those kinds of technical things to be able to create these. I think people tend to overlook the science aspect of brewing beer, but it's heavily in there. Do you have a science background as well?
I
or-
do. So I have a background in biomedical sciences. So with a pretty heavy focus on microbiology. I was going to be a doctor or try to go down that route, and then kind of shifted halfway
Sure.
through college and went towards the dentist
Thank you.
route, and then did some post grad stuff, and heart wasn't in it. Quickly decided, like he decided with film, that maybe it wasn't for me. So got a job, came back home, got a job locally, and started brewing heavily.
That's awesome. You know, I think it's really important for people to realize too that sometimes when you go down a certain like career path, you figure out it's not for you, like
Right.
don't stick on it just
Leave
because you
it.
spend time in
Yeah.
it. Find what like you truly believe in and what is your passion. And I think that's really obvious from your beers. I haven't tried the other one yet, but from this beer and what you guys do, that your heart is in this.
Definitely.
So
Yeah.
You're not just making another basic beer to be out there and make money, clearly. Otherwise, I would taste it, so.
And we have a lot in common. You said you brew heavily. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Brew heavily. I drink heavily. So we've got a lot in common.
Yep.
This is Mesolithic. It's an imperial sweet stout with coffee, hazelnut cacao nibs. The coffee is from Bandit in St. Petersburg.
Sweet.
I am a big fan of what they're doing over in Bandit, and Keenan, their roaster, is doing great stuff, and he sources really cool beans from various areas. So we appreciate what those flavors can bring to our beers. Also being local, supporting local, part of our ideology. And then the cacao nibs are from Pinellas Chocolate, which does amazing cacao nibs and amazing chocolate. They also roast their nibs themselves and get nibs from various sources that we have been able to play with and figure out what we like from what certain regions.
So the fact that you bring in local sources of different kinds of ingredients, does that have anything to do with the name of the brewery?
Yes, absolutely. That's kind of the whole idea of where the name came from, cultivation. So dream,
Wow.
big dream.
Very good.
Delicious.
Thank you so much. The big dream of ours is to eventually have a big enough plot of land where we have a farm. We're growing our own ingredients, and using them in our beer, mostly fruit because Florida is great for fruit, and we use a lot of fruit in our beers. It's juice box and other mixed culture beers as well. And anything we can grow will be a lot easier for us to have. And then we want to have a local community around our beers, centered around education of those beers as well. For instance, the difference between a kettle sour beer that takes 3 extra days to lower the pH and then normal process fermentation versus a mixed culture beer that sits in barrels for 2 years, and why the price points are different and why this one tastes so much different. This beer is pretty sweet and fruit forward, while the other one is like you get a lot of complexity and you get a lot of oak and light acidity and some funk, et cetera, et cetera. And so really that's where I feel that our branding can take people and our beers can take people. We make these beers that are over the top, but we also make a lot of beers that are subtle and very complex, and you can sit, discuss, and really drink them.
It's super interesting because it's like almost like there's so many, you hear like so many restaurants that are like farm to table, farm to table, farm to table, but really it's like actually being not farm to table, like farm to tank or farm to barrel, like in that way of owning your own thing, which is a really cool concept that I don't feel like I've heard anyone, not that I'm the most well-versed person in the world, but I haven't heard too many people actually going after that, obviously working locally, but to have your own land and do something like that, I think would be absolutely incredible because you really have control then of what's going into your beer.
Yeah, for sure.
The educational outreach part of it is really cool too, because I think there's a lot of interest in people knowing a little more about their craft beers nowadays than there was before. People used to just drink because it's got alcohol.
Sure.
But now that there's different kinds of craft brews and these kinds of stouts and imperial sours and things like that you can have, people want to know a little bit more about what they're drinking because it's different.
Right.
And so that's a really cool aspect.
What's the ABV on this?
This is 10%.
What? Okay, this is a sneak attack. Oh no.
I saw it when I was looking at the bottle, and this is up there.
It doesn't taste boozy.
This is
So-
for sharing.
We brew this beer to be a clean base for what we call dessert style sweet stouts. We kind of have come up with this funny, we call it the highbrow pastry series.
Pastries.
Because
Oh my gosh, Monopoly Man, no.
some of the
That's,
people
It
who
does
are
look like
brewing
Monopoly
these
Man.
beers take them very seriously, and they're really not. They're like drinking a liquid chocolate bar. So
Absolutely, yeah.
in our opinion, they're kind of pretty easy to poke fun out. They're melted desserts, basically. Ice
I can
cream
see
in a
that, yeah.
glass. So
An ice cream, like, when you put ice cream in
Like a
this,
float,
like
yeah.
a float, yes, a beer float.
So that's where that highbrow pastry comes from. We've done Mesolithic. It's just a fun play. This is what this beer is. It's got some hazelnuts in it. So the Mesolithic period was the first time we have documented recording of hazelnuts being cultivated on a large scale.
Yes,
There's
a pit of hazelnut shells or something, or crumbs, or they're not shells,
Yep.
but something like that.
Yep,
yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. I read that on your Untapped description. From
Yep.
this
So
one,
we've done one similar in that same series called Hopewell, named after the Hopewell Indians. It's basically our melted mounds bar in stout form, and so they were known for leaving these mounds everywhere that people aren't really sure what they're for. Maybe for lining up stars, seasonal differences. They weren't burial grounds; they were just unknown mounds. So we wanted to brew an Almond Joy or Mounds type stout with a bunch of coconut.
So how many quart beers do you currently brew?
Well, I wouldn't say
We have the benefit of being homebrewers, so it's
Right.
like, hey, what do you want to brew this weekend? Not the same as last weekend. So for our festivals, we've tended to migrate towards the kind of 3 different beer styles. Something for each palate. A really fruited Berliner for people who are not maybe into beer and like fruit. That's a gateway beer for a lot of people. We have a lot of, I hate to gender stereotype or anything, but a lot of wives and girlfriends who are
They're like,
there.
I don't like beer. It's like, shut up, drink this.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, you like
You
fruit?
do now.
Yeah, here. Oh my goodness, is a lot of responses we
Yeah.
get.
Gateway beer. That's funny.
Yeah,
I like
so
that.
we do that. Him and I both share a passion for Northeast style hoppy beers. West Coast are pretty good too. Every once in a
about
while.
your IPA, actually. Like, what did you lean towards? Like, if it was like a...
We definitely towards
Definitely hazy IPAs.
Hazy
Gotcha.
IPAs.
Northeast style
I think
IPAs.
Three Bridges is calling them modern IPAs at this point. But kind of that focus on stripping back some of that bitterness, having a lot of late additions, bringing forward the hop flavor and aroma without it being abrasive.
Yeah.
And kind of throwing some wheat or some oats, something with a little bit of protein to give a smoother mouthfeel. And that's typically where we lie. Every once in a while, we will have a West Coast just to kind of break it up. But
For sure.
Now these are both very balanced in their tastes. Like even the stout is not. I would never guess 10%.
No
and
way.
so that's like a trouble beer. That's definitely for sharing, like for sure.
Yeah.
And the other one is like the fruit. It's so fruit forward, but it's very good. It doesn't taste too sweet. It's not over the top. It's just the right amount of sour and tart.
It tastes like it came out of a fruit that you pulled off a tree that you squeezed into a glass.
It's so good.
Yeah, actually,
It's
it's
that
funny you
good.
say about it not being too sweet because I thought the same thing about the stout itself. Is that sometimes you get these like pastry stouts or like dessert stouts, and they're so sicky sweet that it's like, ooh, like I honestly like I can only it's good, but I can have like this much of it. That I can consistently have too much of and then get in trouble.
So you brewed an imperial stout for your wedding,
Yep. So that was,
That was the first time we brewed together.
And you're still
and
married?
everybody made it out okay?
well, so it was a bit different. So our centerpieces, my wife wanted to incorporate some grain. So I decided she wanted some color differences in between the grains. So immediately you kind of rationalize towards some base malt, some 2-row, and then some sort of roasted malt or chocolate malt, something like that, which to me screams, let's make a stout out of our centerpieces. So
that's
I
really
ordered a
cool.
recipe, and then she did some striations, some mix between some chocolate malt and roasted malt. And at the end of the night, we collected all of the grains, bulked it up with some more 2-row, and then we brewed it when we got back from our honeymoon.
That's
Oh
really
my gosh.
freaking cool.
Do you
though.
still
I
have
love
That's
that.
do you still have some at home? Or how long have you been married?
Almost 2 years.
And you
so
still
it's
have-
pretty much all gone. We have like 3 bottles left.
But you're
that we're
saving
saving
for
for
anniversaries? There you go.
Yeah.
Oh,
That's-
that's so awesome.
That's great.
Okay.
That's great.
We wanted to do it for the 5 years.
That's
so.
awesome. Yes, I support that big
Yeah.
time. It's been so awesome having you guys on the show. I've loved learning, as I'm sure we all have, about your brewery and the beers you have and about how you got here.
Definitely.
The beers are fantastic, and I'm not
Thank
surprised at all that you have won or that you're going to be opening up a brewery. I will be there 100%.
Can't wait to be there myself.
Whenever the ETA is, hit us up. We will be there to drink your beer.
Yeah, exactly. How can our friends follow you and find you on social media?
So you can find us at facebook.com/Cultivation Brewing Company or Instagram.com/Cultivation Brewing Company. Pretty simple. Feel free to check us out and keep up to date on all of the happenings on where we're going to be, where we're going to be pouring, and hopefully when we're going to be having our brewery brick and mortar build out started. Thanks for watching, and thanks for having us, guys.
Yeah, no, thanks
No
so
problem.
much for
Thanks for
coming.
coming
Thanks
out.
for the beer.
And remember, everyone, to believe in the power of beer.
That was intense.
Yes.
Hell.
That's what we're looking for.
Some beer and sunshine. Oh, beer and sunshine. Yeah, beer and sunshine.